This will be part 3 in the box series of videos. This time I wanted to cover a little bit on how to use the node editor, how to use subtraction, and also how to position magnets to hold on the lids of these boxes. So this time what we're going to create is a dice box for Dungeons and Dragons, because that seems to be what all the cool kids are playing these days. You can also use these for jewelry boxes or for any other kinds of things. And I'll show you how to get the magnets positioned in here, mount those, and how to get these little pockets cut and spaced out correctly. And then in the end, we'll come back and we'll carve something really pretty on the top. So with my original design, I knew I wanted something in a circular box. I've dealt with ones that are about this size before. This is about a little over 4 inches. It gives me a big enough box, but it doesn't feel huge and clunky. Each one of these is a ring approximately 1/8 of an inch in from the other. This will be our outside diameter here, our inner lip, and then the inside piece of the box here. Now, I knew I wanted 6 compartments in here, so I could literally just take these 1/4 inch slices like this and do them 60 degrees off from each other. And that gives me 6 compartments. And I wanted 6 compartments because there are 6 types of dice in D&D. I looked at this a couple of times and I felt like these were still a little small in here and there was a lot of wasted space in this area. So that's when I decided what I wanted was 5 compartments around the edge and then a circular compartment in the middle, so that I didn't end up with this wasted space here. What we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and kill these 2 right here. Delete those. Alright, so now I've got a 1/4 inch walled piece right here. I know that this is 360 degrees, good old high school geometry coming in handy. So if I'm going by 5 compartments, I want these to be on 72-degree angles going around here. So if I take this one and I'm going to copy it. Now I want to make sure that these are all spaced correctly. And one of the things I can do, you notice here I see these little points, midpoint and center. I can take the center of this one and drag it and it'll lock to the center of that one. And that way I know they're exactly where I want them to be. And then I can just take this one and make it 72 degrees from that one. And I know my second wall will be here, right? And I'm going to keep doing that. All right. Until I've got my 5 compartments. Okay. So now you notice we've split this into a lot more than 5, but really what we want is every other one. This one, this one, this one, this one, and so on. But we also want these shorter. We don't want them going all the way across. So to start with, I'm going to use that fact that we can lock these nodes together to line up all of our stuff, right? So I'm going to lock this one first. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go ahead and center it. And then I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. So we're going to make these about 1.25, 1.5. So now I'm going to take the midpoint here at the top and I'm going to lock it to this one, right? So now I know that's in the right spot. I'm going to delete this guy. Don't need him anymore. And I'm going to go on to the next one. Remember, the next one's not this, it's this one. So do the same thing, copy, center it. 1.5. All right, grab my midpoint. And I can get rid of this one. So this makes sure that each of these is in the right place and at the right angle. Okay, so now I've got my 5 walls right here, and this gives me a nice big open space up here, and I'm going to use the space in the middle as well. But for right now, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and subtract these out so that I end up with the inner walls that I can cut. So start by selecting my innermost circle. I'm going to break these apart. My innermost circle, select this guy because he's got his little dotted line around, so we're going to cut him out. We use subtraction, boink, and now he's out. And we're going to do the same thing with all the rest of these. Alright, so now we've got this kind of really odd shape here. So the next thing I want to do is put our circular pocket here in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and take our circular vector, I'm going to lock to the center. And I'm going to make this one about 0.9 diameter. Radius, sorry. Keep forgetting radius versus diameter. Then I'm going to take this, I'm going to do an offset. 2.5. Alright, and that'll be our center pocket. Right? So now I want to take this crazy shape and I'm going to subtract out our center. Use the subtraction tool, bang. And now we've got our pockets and our center piece right there. So we should be good to go on that. The next thing we want to do is add the magnets in. Okay, so the magnets we're going to use are these little guys. They are made by a company called Magcraft. You can order them online from Highland Woodworking. They are about 1/4 of an inch square, and they come out to be exactly 1/8 of an inch thick. So we'll need to take that into account when we're cutting the slots for these. Okay, so now that we know the size of our magnets, let's get those fitted in there. Go ahead and choose this. And I want to make this 28, a little bit bigger than the 1/8 inch of the magnet. 5, and I'm going to fill it. So now I've got this. And these are the size for my magnets, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and make this one 72 rotation. And then I should be able to fit it right over here. I'm going to turn off snap to grid so it doesn't try and pull it in one particular direction. Okay, so I'm going to put that one there, copy, and flip. And this one can go over here. And I find sometimes it's helpful to zoom in on these. Positioning. That's close to center. And this is close to center. Okay. Now you'll notice that there's not a lot of material here. So this could prove problematic when we're trying to put those magnets in. You can wind up busting out the wood. You don't want that. So what I want to show you next is something called a node editor, which is built in. I can come over here and I can select one of these. And now I get to see all the nodes that make up that shape. And I can zoom in and I can select a node. I can tell it delete. Notice that gives me a little more room. Delete. Delete. So now I've got a little more space. If I reset my view, okay, that is cool. That gives me plenty of space. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to this one. Delete. 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 Alright, unselect, reset. Okay, so now I've got a little bit of a wider shape. It doesn't deter too much from the room that I have in the shell, but I think I want to make all of these consistent all the way around so that they've kind of spread out at the top like this one. So let me go ahead and do that. So now I've got this, and that gives us the basic shape for our bottom piece. Now we want to create our top piece. The critical thing to remember about the top piece is you want these magnets to line up exactly. We don't necessarily need these pieces right here, so we're going to make our top piece completely open. So I want to select these two, the magnet, and this other magnet. All right, now I've got those. Copy. I'm going to group them. And the other thing that's important to remember to do is flip them. I want to go ahead and flip them this way because remember our box is going to sit together, right? And that ensures that those magnets should line up when they come together. So now what we need to do is go ahead and break this apart again. I'm going to select this guy. So this is our inner wall, right? This should line up with this piece over here. But I need some place for these magnets to fit in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to say I want outside. Yeah, I can live with that. Okay, so I want to do that, and then I want to do the same thing for this one. Okay, so now I've got these pieces here that allow me to put some wood there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this guy. You'll see why in just a second. Copy. And now I need to cut this guy out. Subtract. And this guy out. Okay. So now I've got a complete outer ring here, right? This one goes all the way around, and that'll be our inner lip. And then slightly down from that, we're going to cut this whole area out around these as our pocket for underneath. Okay, so the next part is figuring out our tool paths. This is going to be a little tricky because of two things. For one, we're going to use an 1/8 inch end mill to cut these magnets out, but for everything else, just to save time, we're going to use a 1/4 inch end mill. So we need to do a tool change in between some of these things. We also need to be really careful on our order of operations so that we don't have to change tools back and forth. So the first thing I want to do is cut the magnets. And in order to show you how this works, I'm probably going to flip back and forth a little bit between the box itself and the design work. So we know our magnets are about 1/4 inch deep, and I'm going to go ahead and cut these two first. And we're going to do 1/8 inch end mill. Leave the speeds, they're fine. And we're going to cut these just a hair deep, so 255. That gives us a little bit of wiggle room. And they should fit in there just nice and snug. And we'll leave those inside. And I'm going to call this bottom magnets. Okay. Now, as we said, for our top magnets, these are going to be in a slightly different plane, right? So they're going to be further down. They actually need to be a little bit deeper than what we had before. So if we calculate what our bottom area of this is going to be and what the bottom of the magnet would be, we're going to use our 1/4 inch bit again, and we come up with 465. That should be our depth for that, and these will be our top magnets. I'm going to go ahead and save the G code for that. And I like to label these with the bit that I'm using. I like to spell it correctly too. Now we need to do our 1/4 inch passes. Now, like I said, this involves some dealing with different planes here. I'm going to go ahead and disable both of these for right now so that when we can go ahead and export the 1/4 inch. Let's do the pockets first. And this is going to be a 1/4 inch end mill. And we're going to cut a pocket. And my pockets are going to be 6'3", which should leave us about a 1/4 of an inch on the bottom. So let's make those bottom pockets. I also need to go ahead and cut the lip for this, which would be this piece. And that one's just going to be an outside contour. That'll give us our lip. And that one is going to be a little less than a 1/4 of an inch. So just go ahead and make it 2/10. Outside. Bottom lip. Okay. Alright, now let's switch over and look at our top. So for the top, there is a circular pocket that we're going to use to get these down to where it'll fit flush with this. So I need to select this guy. Right, this is our complete circle. And we're going to pocket him. And his pocket should be roughly equal to the one here. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit deeper, just slightly. Because I find sometimes, it's, like I said, it's good to have a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, and we want to switch this from inside left to pocket, right? And that's going to create just a shallow pocket that'll bring these down. Next, we want to do this inner piece, right? This is the one that's going to go all the way down to the back, right? So this one, we're going to do another pocket. Same 1/4 inch bit. This one is going to go down to 0.63, which will leave us a 1/4 of an inch of thickness here so we can do our V carving on the top. The other thing though is, since we've already cut away some material with this circle, we can start this one a little deeper, right? So go ahead and start this one at 210, which is where this first giant circle left off. Again, we want to pocket that, and that one we're just going to call the full pocket. Okay, so that's got those. Now the last thing we need to do is our cutouts. Fortunately, these are both the same depth, so we can cut the two of them together. These are our two outer circles we've selected, and we'll go contour, same 1/4 inch bits, fine. We're going to use the stock bottom, 8/8. Outside right, and we're definitely going to give ourselves some tabs. I wouldn't add them right here because they might get cut out at that point, but 4 tabs is generally good for this, and I like to put them at the corners where there's a lot of extra stock. I tend to shave mine down a bit, just a habit. Alright, so that's got those pockets as well. We're going to call this cutout. Alright, now this is all of our 1/4 inch operations. It's always a good idea to kind of mouse over them and make sure that they seem to be cutting what you think they're cutting. Make sure that your order of operations makes sense. Alright, and we're going to save that G-code out. And we called that last one Dice Box 1/8. So we're going to call this one Dice Box 1/4. Okay, that's got that. Okay, so remember, we're going to cut this box in 2 passes. We're going to do one with our 1/8 inch end mill that I've already got hooked up right here, and then we're going to switch to our 1/4 inch and get the rest of the stuff out. So what I need to do first is go ahead and zero this out. Okay, once that piece of paper is in there tight, I know that that should be 0. And now we're ready to get started. Okay, so now our little pockets for our magnets are cut, and I have the 1/4 inch bit chucked in, and we're ready to do our second pass. Now in order to do this, remember we've changed the bit that's in there. So I need to come over here, and I'm going to jog this guy, do rapid position, current offset X and Y, and I'm going to drop it down within 6 millimeters. Now that returns us to our original position, and we want to keep that X and Y. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to readjust that Z axis, and that will make sure that we're in the same position we need to be to start our second cut. And again, we're just going to jog this down until that paper catches, and then we'll know that we're at 0 for our final Z axis. Okay, and here we go. I got a little bit of cutting out to do on the bandsaw, and then we should be ready. Okay, so now we've got our two sides of our box, and they fit together pretty well. We're going to go ahead and put the magnets in, and then we're going to carve the top. So the first thing we want to do with our magnets is make sure that we've got a polar matched pair, right? So we're going to stick them together like this, and then I'm going to take a Sharpie. I'm going to mark the outside of each one of these so that they're black, right? That way I know the black piece is what goes down into the wood, and that way I will have those magnets attracting to each other, not repelling. You're going to screw this up once and it's going to make you really unhappy, so definitely mark them each time. So now that I've got this pair marked, I can take it, position it, and shove it down in there using its mate. And I want to get it not quite flush, because I'm going to go ahead and use these to squeeze together to get them flush. Now that one is going to match up with this one, and remember I want that black piece going down, so I'm going to put that in here. Okay, and push that down to where it's not quite flush, close. All right, do the same thing with our second one. So now we have those pushed in here. And the reason I left them a little flush is just in case our measurements are off. When I put this together, right, now I can just use the box and squeeze the box down to where the box is flat, and now those magnets should be perfectly positioned together, and they're holding the box steady. And you can twist easily to bring those off, and then they go back together. So the next thing we want to do is we want to set up our V-carve for our box top. And if you haven't watched it already, you may want to watch the previous video I did on centering things for box tops, but we'll go through some of it while we're there. First off, we're going to go ahead and change the canvas around. I'm just going to make this 5x5. Don't really care about this piece. We're going to change this to center so we can make sure our design is aligned to the center. I'm going to drop this down to about 2 millimeters just for the sake of speed. Okay, now our center reference point is going to be right there. I'm going to go ahead and make myself a circle here. And I'm going to make that the size of my box top. This will just be a reference to kind of keep me in bounds on that. And one of the things I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a quick second circle, select the two, alignment, and center them in the stock. Right. Okay, that means my circle is in the middle of the stock. Let me get rid of this guy. That's where my box top needs to fit, is in that section. So I'm going to go ahead and import an SVG image I've already got. This is one that I purchased from Shutterstock that I like a lot for these kinds of boxes. Alright. But one thing you'll notice is when I click away from him, I've got a bunch of pink looking lines here. Some of them are black and some of them are pink. Now, if we zoom in on one, we can see what the problem is. This particular path isn't actually closed, right? And that's where carbide is coming into problems. This one here is open there, that one's open there. sometimes the paths aren't completely closed when you convert from the SVG. So what we want to do is come back over here. You notice when I select this, I get my little node editor over here, and I get this guy. This guy will join my paths, the most convenient path there. That one is now black and ready to be V-carved. And I just need to do this with the rest of these. And I'm going to give you a break from watching me do that because boy would that be tedious, but if you're zoomed in, it doesn't take very long to do. Okay, so that's got him. Now I want to make sure that I go ahead and reselect everything. I want to deselect my circle and then group them. Okay, so now I've got this guy. He's all selected. And I'm going to scale him down so he fits on top of our box. And let's make him about 4 inches wide. See how that works. Alright. Click this guy. Center him. Probably want to bring him down. So let's see what happens if I do that. And bring him in like that. Okay. I think that's got him. Alright, so now we've got the outside of our box just as a reference, and this will be our V-carve. So I'm going to go ahead and select him. Do a toolpath, V-carve. I'm going to choose this is my 60-degree end mill. Should give me a little bit better definition. I'm going to choose OK. V-carve. Alright, and we're going to save that G-code as Dragon. Dice box. V-arv. No, that's wrong. V-carve. Better. Alright, so now we've got that saved. So this is one of our centering jigs like I created in the last video. I'll put links down in the doodly-doo just to make sure that if you haven't seen that when you get a chance to review it. But the basic idea is this is just a piece of MDF bolted down in the center that lets us use the machine's idea of what the center of the wasteboard is to make sure that we center the design correctly on our box. And if I go to rapid position and I hit center, I know that we're in agreement on what center is. And now all I have to do is set my Z-axis and we can go ahead and carve. And there we have our dragon lined up perfectly on the top of the box. Let's do a little bit of cleanup and a little bit of finishing and we should be done. So this is our finished box. Couple of coats of acrylic on it, magnets in place, and ready for somebody to use. So next time I'll probably do something that's not quite box related so people who are tired of boxes can enjoy something new. But that's all for now.